So I wanted Trump to succeed, and I've given him every benefit of the doubt. When he took criticism for saying there were good people on both sides of the disturbance over the statues, Confederate statues, he wasn't talking about the violent white supremacists. He was talking about people differing on what to do with Confederate statues. And he's said as much. And the shutdown over the wall he got blamed for was more Nancy Pelosi's fault than it was his, in my opinion, as much as I've always respected, even adored, Nancy Pelosi. But on this deal, she was the worst negotiator and deal maker in history. I know about deals. I did deals for 20 years as a corporate lawyer. I never lost one. And this is true even if we don't agree with Donald's position on the wall. Over the years, Democrats have supported money for the wall. It was an issue Donald got elected on, and he was operating within the law to force a budget shutdown over it. The rules for budget shutdowns should be changed, but they haven't been. When there's a shutdown, members of Congress and their staff and the White House staff should lose their money first. The Democrats should have made the deal. Half of what Donald wanted for the wall in exchange for an equivalent amount of money for social services at the border that Democrats have long sought and for codifying DACA. Trump's withholding support for our friends in Ukraine that they needed to fight the Russians, because of which many Ukrainians died or may, in order to get them to investigate Biden, was the breaking point for me on impeachment. First, there was a quid pro quo, and even if there hadn't been, it's wrong to ask a foreign power to help with one's own political and personal agenda. Wrong, it's wrong. It's time for us to stand up. If not now, when? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Enough is enough, I said, and he really lost me by pulling our troops out of Syria and inviting a massacre of our friends the Kurds. The blood of dozens of Kurds killed by Turkey is on his hands. It's on your hands, Mr. President. As is that the Kurds have had to abandon their homes, tens of thousands of them. Their civilization has been destroyed. They've lost their country, Mr. President. Shame on you, Mr. Trump. Where's America's loyalty to our friends and to justice and to what is right? No one in the country agreed with you. No one. Not Republicans, not your advisors. No one. You've lost your mind. You've abdicated your right to serve. And impeachment or no impeachment, the people around you should declare you unfit to serve and take away your governance, which I believe is now constitutional. Step down, Mr. President. Step down. Step down. My signature issues are at least two, and different from the other candidates. First is third grade reading scores. All our third graders reading at grade level. Zero tolerance, and I know how to do that. I've been on the St. Louis elected school board for 16 years. It will solve a host of problems in our country, crime among them, and an educated workforce to keep, attract, and develop jobs. My second signature issue, which is personal and germinated after I lost my friend Tom Schweik, auditor of Missouri, to suicide, and other people in Missouri were killing each other at entirely too often and at an alarming rate. Though common sense gun laws are a must, I believe that will reduce senseless violence even more pervasively by public service announcements 24/7 on all media for the rest of our lives, for as long as it takes, and a violence prevention hotline to ask people who are thinking of hurting themselves or others to come in from the cold and ask for help. People are basically good at heart, and no one wants to hurt themselves or others if they're given options. We need to give people options. That call will be the hardest call they ever make, and we need to be ready to help them. You don't have to have sat with a gun in your lap 45 years ago on a Friday, as I did, to know the pain somebody must be in to be at that point in their life wanting to hurt themselves or someone else. But I can tell you, it doesn't hurt any to help have empathy for the pain others are in. It's the mental health piece we're missing, and that should engender bipartisan support. For income inequality, I propose a fair severance for those laid off by mergers and acquisitions or automation, which is predicted to affect 40% of our workforce in the coming decades. That's an idea no other candidate is talking about. Climate change, of course, with a carbon tax, among other things, and subsidies for those individuals and businesses affected by it. I've not heard the subsidies for those affected by it come out of the plans of any of the other candidates. Stopping animal abuse on factory farms is another important issue that's always been important to me. They do things to pigs and chickens and cows that we'd never permit them to do to our dogs and cats. And I have 20 cats and 4 dogs in heaven and one of each still here. And the other animals are God's children too. And I don't hear that issue from other candidates. On health care, I Medicare for all gradually over several years at affordable or no cost because of the administrative cost savings of 17%, and without taking anyone's insurance away that wants to keep it. And businesses paying some of the costs, but with the savings over what they pay now, as was set forth in John Conyers' health care bill introduced in 2003, and which I've supported for almost 15 years as a member of Missourians for Single Payer. With respect to immigration, among other solutions, I'm with Paul Krugman that dollar for dollar investment in industry for northern Mexico will benefit us more than a wall. And I don't hear any of the other candidates talking about investment in businesses in northern Mexico. So some of these programs will cost money and need to be phased in. But investment in our people and our country is always money well spent. And I think our constituents will support this if the costs and burdens are fair and results evident. They are really investments in our future. Finally, let me talk about opioids and the Federal Drug Administration. For those of you who watch 60 Minutes regularly, and all of us should, you know that former employees of the FDA lobbied the FDA several times to take the teeth out of legislation meant to protect against opioid abuse in sale and distribution. And the FDA went along and introduced a bill in Congress, and whistleblower and lead investigator Joe Ronazisi was forced out. And you know who reads a bill in Congress when the FDA recommends it? No one. Not one member of Congress read that bill, nor the president when he signed it. Those complicit employees in the FDA who did this, taking the teeth out of the law mandating good oversight of opioid sale and distribution, need to be indicted and or forced out. Joe Ronazisi needs to be rehired, and David Kessler, former FDA commissioner, needs to be asked to come back and run the agency as it should. What a disgrace when former employees, mostly lawyers I'm sure, lobby and influence federal agencies for their new clients, and it needs to be prohibited. I'm Bill Haas. I seek the Democratic nomination for President of the United States, and I want to be your next president. My website is votehaas.com, and my philosophy of governance is that this should be about people, not politics.